The petroleum sector has been riddled with several challenges aside the exodus of some international oil companies from the fields. Nigeria has seen rising crude oil theft, leading to reduced output and exports. But the signing into law of the Petroleum Industry Act, described as one of the most progressive oil and gas legislation in decades, can be said to be one of the legacies of the outgoing Buhari administration. Key changes introduced by the PIA include establishing 2 new regulatory authorities for all upstream and midstream downstream oil and gas activities, improved host communities considerations, as well as establishing NNPC Limited as a business-focused entity with a new brand identity.
It's a corporation that existed for over 40 years, upward of 50 years, and now it has transformed into a limited. And in over 40 years of its existence, it made losses, huge losses, enough to have folded up any corporation. But in the past 2 years or so, it started making profits. So I think what has happened today is a huge and significant development.
This company must do what other companies are doing. I can see many businesses here. We must do what they are doing. You must meet the terms and conditions of the Company and Allied Matters Act. You must also meet the requirements of a memorandum and article of association. And you must also meet the requirements of the petroleum industry. The combined effect of all of them is that you cannot lose money. You must deliver value to your shareholders. You must deliver energy security to our country. You must be accountable and transparent to your shareholders. So it's no longer an option.
President Muhammadu Buhari also signed into law another landmark legislation, the Deep Offshore and Inland Basin Production Sharing Contract Amendment Bill. The law significantly increases Nigeria's share of earnings from oil wells offshore the country. The implementation of the Decade of Gas initiatives, the launch of the National Gas Expansion Program, increase in the establishment of liquefied petroleum gas plants are the other areas of achievements. The Decade of Gas 2030 seeks to grow gas demand at a compound annual growth rate of 16.6% annually, driven by major projects such as the NLNG Train 7, Nigeria-Morocco Pipeline, NLNG Train 8, Buhari'S Fertilizer, and the Ajaokuta-Kaduna-Kano Gas Pipeline project.
And will flow 2 billion scoop of gas. And what this means is that you are delivering 2 billion scoop of gas every day into this line, powering industries, powering power plants, creating gas-based industries. And this is the ultimate objective.
I want to believe the outgoing government would attribute this as one of their achievements, putting down a master plan to help develop and effectively make use of our natural gas. What is your take on how far we've gone with the Decade of Gas for 2030, which is to ensure that every Nigerian has access to gas, especially cooking gas?
Nigeria has proved reserve of more than 200 trillion cubic feet of gas. And the potential gas that Nigeria has is in excess of 600 trillion cubic feet. Means Nigeria is even more of a gas nation than an oil nation. But ask yourself a practical question. As far as I'm concerned, from natural gas, you will get ammonia. From ammonia, you will get urea. From urea, you are going to get fertilizer. But as I speak to you right now, a bag of fertilizer that used to cost 2,000 or 3,000 Nigerian naira is more than 25,000 Nigerian naira. So, I mean, from that angle, I don't have any justification to say we are faring or doing well.
We look at a lot of our issues like it's just one answer. It's not one answer. They're multifactorial. So we need to know what the factors are within LPG. Why is cooking gas getting more expensive? If it is part of our agenda to make cooking gas more available, which means it should be available in the villages, which will enable even development. So why is it more expensive? Why do we have scarcity when we have not even reached 50% penetration? Those are questions to ask. And it is based on the information that comes from there that we can now access progress. And it's possible that when you're doing the progress report or progress analysis, that there will be some progress in some areas and lack of progress in certain areas.
Since 1958, we've been producing oil. When the first oil well was discovered in Buhari'S, we are still flaring oil. It is sad, it's unfortunate, not to talk of the health hazard. It's like it's environmental pollution. We are killing our own people and killing our economic resources. Why we have not been able to find a solution to harness what we are burning and create it into money is beyond me. The technology is there.
Despite these progress made so far, the sector still grapples with increased crude oil theft that has drastically affected Nigeria's production output, resulting in significant revenue losses. This in addition to sabotage on oil and gas facilities by Niger Delta militants in 2016. Funds in the excess crude account, which stood at $2.2 billion in 2015, dropped to $72 million in 2020, a 96% drop. To curb theft, the government had to employ the services of local vigilantes, private and government security forces to secure the pipelines. So far, some suspects have been arrested and stolen crude recovered.
So upon getting the truck and inspecting it, we discovered it was carrying crude oil. They did argue initially that it was sludge, but we have enough experience to differentiate between sludge and crude oil. So that gave us the confidence to enter the place and go in for inspection. Now we inspected the barge and discovered that the barge had 12 tanks, of which one with the evidence of crude oil was emptied, and then there were 2 other tanks that still had crude oil to some extent.
The protracted plan to remove fuel subsidy payment is another challenge faced by the Buhari administration. From all indications, the current administration may be leaving this decision for the incoming Tinubu government to make. The president-elect has promised to create an industry which successfully utilizes its vast resources, take advantage of high oil prices to generate necessary revenue, successful diversification, and ensure self-sufficiency in meeting demand for petroleum products.
Even though we are looking for more fields, we are not exploiting, we are not maximizing the current fields that we have. Significantly, our production has fallen low. As at now, we are lower than Angola, which used to be like half of our production. And a number of other things are affecting us. So, while we are searching for more fields, we need to also be doing the job of maximizing the fields that we have.
As far as I'm concerned, there was a time we were told that some oil companies were shutting down or leaving Nigeria. To be honest, based on my experience of the Nigerian oil and gas industry, they were not actually divesting, because there is a difference between divesting and trying to make sure they look for other things. They were actually running away from business climate hostilities, because divesting is different from diversification. They were not diversifying, and they were not actually divesting. They were running to cheaper, better, and safer investment havens.
Dangote's refinery coming on stream is a major game changer in the oil and gas sector. As the last check, I believe it will be producing about 650,000 barrels of oil a day. It is a milestone that we've never seen in Nigeria, especially at this time when all our refineries are moribund. We are spending a lot of money on importation of petroleum products. We are producing and not refining. So with Dangote coming on board and on stream, it means that the oil and gas sector, the oil industry in Nigeria will experience a major shakeup.
As listed in his Renewed Hope campaign manifesto, Tinubu wants to increase crude oil production to 2.6 million barrels per day by 2027 and 4 million barrels per day by 2030. establish a special enforcement and monitoring unit whose sole mandate will be to protect the nation's pipelines by deploying technological interventions, achieve full deregulation of midstream gas prices within 6 months, increase gas production by 20%, and complete critical gas infrastructure projects by 2027. Experts in the industry say the incoming government needs to put the right persons in place to ensure their campaign promises are fulfilled.
We have an industry where we have had people who do not have the capacity, who don't have the required or requisite experience. Even when they have the requisite experience, corruption takes over. And by virtue or nature of our society, there are no checks and balances, there are no penalties, people are not held accountable for lack of performance.
We need to agree that we want to have development. So we do not put agendas, perspectives ahead of national development. And if that is the case, irrespective of who comes in, there are certain things that will not change. And one of those things fundamentally is that I do not see anything changing with the decade of gas, if progress is the direction. And then our thinking with respect to energy transition, which are so fundamental to the issues, we should not have any changes there.
With some developing countries cutting down on the use of fossil fuel, stakeholders fear Nigeria's oil and gas sector may no longer sustain the economy. Although Tinubu has promised to ensure diversification of the economy when he comes into office, experts say a boost in the mining of precious stones, agriculture, and other minerals is also crucial.
Nigeria has so much coal. Till today, Nigeria has not been able to transform her coal to generate energy. There are so many developed economies that are still relying on coal today, despite the move towards renewable energy. South Africa is one, China is another, because it's the truth. And I can mention many countries. We have not been able to take advantage of our deposit of coal and bitumen.
Irrespective of whatever the world is saying, our industries need to develop independent of oil. Agri needs to function and be profitable. Health needs to function and be profitable. Education needs to function and be profitable. Every industry needs to run independent of each other. They need to function and be profitable. It has nothing to do with global trends. It is just how the economy will be balanced.
As Nigeria struggles to meet up with the OPEC production quota, very few people benefit from illegal activities. The economy is impacted, and the average Nigerian continues to suffer. If this trend is not tackled, the ability of the incoming government to pursue the much-needed infrastructural development may be hampered by lack of revenues. The Tinubu administration, when it takes over on the 29th of May 2023, has a huge task of stabilizing the oil and gas sector, as well as urgently driving diversification of the economy. Georgina Ndukwezaika, Arise News.